Good evening, and thank you for coming. I just wanted to introduce our speaker for tonight, Scott Burnett. He is a local tech expert and with a passion for family internet security. He is the owner of Integrity Computer Concepts, a tech support company that services homes and small businesses in the Newport area. He's been speaking to schools, churches, and community groups for nearly 20 years on the changing landscape of family security. Scott attends Saddleback Church, where his wife, Cari, is the children's ministry director. When Scott is not fixing, teaching, or learning about technology, you will find him at the hockey rink, dirt bike track, or camping with his family. So please help me welcome Scott.
Check, is this microphone working? Cool. Well, I'm on a microphone, but I don't feel like I need one because there's only a small handful of us here, but I'm glad that there's some people watching online, and I'm excited that even though you couldn't make it down here today, you get to learn a little bit more about technology. So, I was here in January of 2019. Any of you guys here in 2019? A couple of you? Great. Some of you were here, and there's more people coming in, so come on in. The presentation that we're going to show today, or I'm going to share today, is very similar to what it was in 2019. But there's some new stuff out. TikTok wasn't around when I was here last, and some other social media platforms that have just popped up. So we'll chat a little bit about those. But even more importantly is if you heard this 3 years ago, you're going to hear it with a new set of ears because your kids are 3 years older. If you heard this with a 9-year-old, you're thinking, oh my gosh, iPad and Club Penguin, how do we protect them? And now you're going YouTube and Snapchat and a cell phone, how do I protect them? And you kind of checked out when I was talking about a cell phone because your child was only 9. So even though some of it might be the same, hopefully it'll help you as your kids progress with technology. So I've got 4 kids, and they are currently 12, 14, 16, and 18. So I have been doing this for a long time. I have been helping parents keep their kids safe with technology since before my children were born. I was doing technology, internet security, safety stuff. So my kids came out of the womb with filters and monitoring software and cameras in their bed. No, I'm just kidding. They don't have a chance, not even a chance of getting around me. But what I'm planning on doing tonight is, first I'm going to scare you a little bit, and I'm going to tell you some of the dangerous things that are out there with technology, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, and you're going to get fearful, and your blood pressures are going to go up, and your heart rate's going to go up. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how to keep them safe. We're going to talk about some software things that you can put on phones and computers. We're going to talk about some hardware things that you could purchase to help protect the kids. And we're going to talk about some common sense rules. I'm not fixing my bra strap. I just have a wire from this microphone on my shoulder, and it might look like them. Okay. And then we're going to talk about some common sense rules. So I've got the greatest common sense rules for keeping your kids safe, not because I have 4 kids and I've been doing this for a long time, but because I've been in homes helping parents protect their kids. And someone will come up and say, hey, we got this great thing that we do, and we have a basket on the porch, and when their kids' friends come over, they have to put their phone in the basket on the porch. And I'm like, that's a genius rule. I'm going to steal that one. And so I've stolen like 100 really good parenting tips from 100 families, and then I just pretend like I made them all up myself. So you're going to go, wow, how'd this guy get so much knowledge on how to parent? I get to go talk to 2 or 3 families a day, and they're all smarter than me. So I'm just going to share all of this stuff, about 20 years worth of experience in this field with you guys. So here we go. First up, let's switch the slide, if I can get my little clicker to work. And can you click on this screen? It somehow maybe isn't active. He's just going to make my PowerPoint hot there. And one more time. What? There we go. Does anybody know where this is? Come on. You have to say it, because it was probably here 3 years ago, and it was the same picture. That is my favorite place on the planet, and that is my better half. That's Cari. She's a children's ministry director at Saddleback Church. Together, we've been doing children's ministry since 1998. So not only do we have kids, but we're Sunday school teachers, and my wife leads a big, huge team of Sunday school teachers, and that is the place that we go to refresh. And Hume Lake is an amazing place to refresh. And I love that chair with that lake, with that view. and I get to detox from technology because they do not have cell phone service at Hume Lake. If you ever want to detox from technology, it is the best place to go. They make you buy Wi-Fi, which I always do. So there we go. This is my family. This was a number of years ago because they're now all teenagers, but I got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. They're all different with technology. Some of them love it, and a couple of them are not so fond of it. They'd much rather play Legos and outdoors and build stuff with their hands. And you might have a kid who's highly addicted to technology and really loves it, and you might have one that just not so much. And even though our kids are growing up in this technology landscape, and they're all very smart, probably smarter than us in some senses, not all the kids are going to gravitate towards it. I was at somebody's house this morning who has a pair of twins, 11-year-olds, and one of them just goes crazy when they get their iPhone or iPad taken away because it is their link to a social universe, and one of them could care less. And so 2 kids born at the exact same time with completely different takes on technology. Because of that, you have different rules. There's not one rule that's going to work for all the kids in your family. I have a rule that 9 o'clock is when you put the phone away for 3 of my kids, and one of them, not only because she's older, but because she is just mature and she handles technology better, and doesn't have an addictive personality. She doesn't necessarily have that rule. So your rules can sort of vary between kids. All right, so how much time do you guys think your kids spend online? Now, I want you to think about all the devices that they use: the phone, the iPad, the laptop, the Xbox. You have the PlayStation, the Nintendo Switch. Now you have the Oculus, which is 3D immersion, the PS4s, the Fire Sticks. And if you add them all up, you might go, oh, they're probably online for a couple hours a day, huh? They're online for a couple hours a day on one device. But if you add them all up, you'd be shocked to hear that it's probably closer to 8 or 9 or 10. You're like, they get up, they check to see what the weather is so that they can dress appropriately for school, and then they come downstairs and watch some YouTube while eating Captain Crunch. In the car, they're doing something, maybe playing Clash of Clans. When they get to school, they're in Google Classroom for 3 hours with a half-an-hour break. They come home, they're doing some more homework, and then it's off to either YouTube or maybe Amazon Prime, or maybe we're going to go to Netflix and we're going to put on Hulu on the radio or Spotify, and it's like technology overload. And by the end of the day, they're awake for 18 hours, and 10 of it was somehow linked with technology, and that's just way too much. Way too much. It's too much for a 5-year-old. It's too much for a 25-year-old. So we're going to keep that in mind today on how much our kids use technology and different things that we can do to kind of tone it down. I'm really big on tampering down the addiction that our kids have with screen time. Here's a funny video. I've played it before. It's great. Worth playing again.
Really?
That is such a timeless commercial. You would not believe how old it is. That's actually a commercial for a Microsoft cell phone, which doesn't even exist anymore, which came out over 10 years ago. They were talking about screen time addiction. And 10 years ago, we were walking around with these brand new smartphones that did some amazing things. And how much more now are we doing it? Or are our teenagers doing it because they grew up with these things in their hands? I don't know if any of you guys are addicted to your cell phone or to social media or maybe the news or just information overload. And what that does is cause an increase in a chemical in our brain called dopamine. We're going to talk about dopamine in a couple minutes. All right, here's what we're going to go over. 5 areas of concern. That's the part where I'm going to scare you. 4 rules to consider. These are rules I've got from other parents. 3 software programs to use. This is what I do every day in homes. And 3 hardware devices. I brought a couple of them up here. I'll explain what they do and how they work. So let's talk about 5 areas of concern. The first one, social networking. This is a big area of concern because Everything that our kids do online now has a social media link to it. Even the smartwatch has a social media link to it. I have a 13-year-old daughter. She has a Fitbit watch. She goes and she runs. She comes home. What does she want to do with that Fitbit data? She wants to share it so she can get a like, a pat on the back, a dopamine infusion of good job, Madison, you did a run, and man, that's more than you did yesterday, and look at your new average time. And technology infuses us with dopamine, and it's all over, even in our smart devices. So we got to be really careful. When I started doing this 10 or 12 years ago, giving these presentations, some of the things our kids did were social media linked, but now all of it is social media linked. There isn't a game that's out there that is not linked with somebody else on the internet or has the ability to chat. It wasn't like that a long time ago, but now it's all social media linked. You have to be really concerned. The problem is with social media is sometimes we're allowing them to start too young. I got a phone call today from a lady who really wanted to give her child Snapchat, and she wanted validation that it was going to be okay. And I said, well, remind me how old your child is again. She goes, she's 11. And I said, yeah, no. Well, why? All of her friends have it, and she's the only one in her class that doesn't have it. I said, well, she's going to definitely tell you that she's the only one that doesn't have it, but I'm betting there's probably some other kids in the 11-year-old's class that do not have Snapchat. So you can't believe everything that comes out of your 11-year-old's mouth. There's crap on Snapchat. It's highly addictive. It has links to magazine articles that are written for college girls, not 11-year-old girls. All in all, you cannot monitor Snapchat at all. My point is, she wanted to give it to her. She thought it was going to be just fine, and it's not. We're actually sneaking the age down lower and lower and lower and justifying it because all the other kids have it. The reality is that you need to be 13, 14, maybe 15 years old before you start giving your kids these intensive social media platforms. Instagram's a little bit different because you can monitor Instagram. I can put my daughter's Instagram on my phone. I can look at it. I can see what she says. I can see what she posts. I can see who she's following. I can see who's following her. I can't do that on Snapchat. I can't do that on TikTok. I can't do that on a couple of other apps. So therefore, you're not going to have them at 11 or 12 or 13 years old. The other problem with social media is kids creating unknown accounts. So the kids who have Instagram don't only have one Instagram account, they have a second one that they call their Finstagram, which stands for a fake Instagram. And all the kids have one, and the Finstagram is the one that your parents don't know about, and maybe you don't have your real name. You might not even have a picture of yourself because you kind of want to be stealth. You want to sneak up on somebody and see what they're doing without them knowing that you're checking out their Instagram and da-da-da-da-da. Well, that can be very dangerous for a young teenager to have a fake or a not real or a secret social media account. So we got to be very careful that they don't have accounts we don't know about. So we got to keep on top of it. We got to look at their phones and see what they're doing. Giving kids social media too early leads to screen time addiction, which I think is a bigger problem now than the content that we see. It's definitely a problem having crap on YouTube and on TikTok. It's definitely a problem. All the junk on Snapchat. But what I think is an even bigger problem is the addiction that comes along with that. They're digital slot machines. They're in their child's hand, and they're just pulling the handle over and over. And when they get a like, it's like getting a win on a slot machine. And the dopamine kicks in because I got a like or a love or a pat on the back or a share or a retweet or something, and it's like winning and getting 3 cherries in a row. And they're just digital slot machines, and they're highly, highly addictive. But the biggest problem with social media is all of the influence time that we lose as parents. So if you add up, my daughter uses 7 hours of Instagram a week. It's about an hour a day. She's 18 years old. That's way too much, but just let's add up 7 hours a week, 50 weeks in a year. So we're at 350 hours a year. She's had Instagram for 5 years. That's 1,700 hours. I'm not doing great on my math right now. That's a bunch of hours that I was not influencing her. Somebody else was influencing her. So she grew up as a teenager, and somebody poured 16 hours of influence into her life that wasn't me. Now, that's super conservative at 1 hour a day. Her peers are doing Snapchat for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day. And that's even worse junk garbage than Instagram is. So we lose influence as a parent when we give them just a little bit and it adds up. And over the course of these very very formidable years between the ages of 12 and 16 years old, we want to be the parent. We don't want to let our children's friends and Instagram influencers be our children's parents. So we want to be very careful with social networking. The most popular ones right now are TikTok, and a new one just came out that is billing itself as TikTok for children. So it's as addictive as TikTok, but the content is better. It doesn't have as much garbage on it, but it's still highly addictive. It's still tiny little short videos that are user-created, user-generated, and shared, but it's aimed at 12-year-olds or 10-year-olds, and it's called Zigazoo. And it's brand new, and you'll probably hear about it in the next few months. When you say, you can't have TikTok, they'll say, well, can I have Zigazoo? Or maybe they don't want to have Zigazoo because it makes them look like an 8-year-old, and I want to be a big 14-year-old, and I want to use TikTok. Snapchat is not monitorable, but still highly popular. My daughter, who's 18, did not get Snapchat till she was 17. So you can't tell me that it's impossible to not let a teenager have Snapchat. Oh, it's very, very easy. You just say no. You're older, you're smarter, you're wiser, and you pay the bills. And the answer is no. And we're not going to argue about it. It's just no. But Dad, all my friends have it. That's okay. You can have Instagram. You can direct message them. You can call them. You can chat with them. You can email with them. You can instant message with them. You can all that stuff. But I can't monitor or see Snapchat, so therefore it's a no. If you do have a child with Snapchat, or you say, hey, I just have to, I don't have control, or there's some differences between the parenting styles between mom and dad, and you say, okay, you're going to have Snapchat, then you better do 3 rules. You better say, number 1, I'm going to have your password at all times. Number 2, I'm going to put your Snapchat on my cell phone, and I'm going to look at it anytime I want to, because I'm the parent. But Dad, if you look at my Snapchat and somebody snaps me, and you look at it, it's going to disappear, and I won't see it. And I'm like, oh, that's really sad. Look, I'm crying right now. I don't care if it disappears. If you want Snapchat, that's going to be the rule. I'll have your password, and it'll be on my phone, period, end of story. And another rule with Snapchat is you're not going to chat with strangers and follow influencers. It's something that you might be able to do with your friends that you know from church group or from your neighborhood or from the soccer team as a form of communication, but we're not going to sit there and follow a bunch of crazy people on Snapchat. So those are the rules I would do if you had to give them Snapchat. I'm not a fan of keeping in social media from them forever, because when they leave your house, they're going to binge. They're going to just dive in head first, and they're going to have no clue because you didn't teach them. And they're going to fall down, and you will not be there to pick them up because you waited till they left the house. So I say, no Snapchat, no Snapchat, no Snapchat. My daughter leaves the house. She goes to college. She decides to get Snapchat. She hasn't a clue what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what you should say, what you shouldn't say. So she does a bunch of things wrong. She falls down. She gets crushed. And my wife and I are not there at all to pick her up. I would much rather give it to her at 17 years old while she still lives in my house, watch her crash and burn, and then pick her up and help her recover and teach her, so that when she does leave the house, she's doing it with some experience. So we told her, okay, you're 17. We can't keep it from you forever. She didn't ask for it. We're like, okay, it's time for you to get Snapchat. We need to see what's really going to happen with you. Well, when she got Snapchat at 17 years old, she went crazy. We took the timer off, and we wanted to see what she would do. And she's like 6 hours a day. And I said, this is crazy. We're going to have to put the filter on or the timer on. She goes, well, Dad, I haven't had it for 13 years. I'm just trying to catch up a little bit. And now she's back to normal. She uses it to communicate. But she didn't use it at 13 and 14 and 15. I think that's too early. And once they get older and you introduce something slowly with rules, with supervision, I don't think it's a bad idea. Be Real is one that just came out a week ago. And it's a horrible, horrible app. It's taking college campuses right now by storm. And the way it works is you join with your friends in a circle. So all of us are friends, and we're going to get on this Be Real app, and we're all going to connect. Okay, so we're all connected on Be Real. And Be Real gives us a random time each day where we all have to take a picture of what we're doing and send it to each other. And we only have 60 seconds to do it. And you have to, or you're out of the circle. So you got 50 college kids running around campus. What do they normally do on social media? They take pictures of their food and of their volleyball game and of their nice clean car and of their A+ on their homework and their nice outfit and their cute boyfriend and all the wonderful things in life. Well, Be Real is saying, hey, let's get everybody to take a picture at a random time each day. It might be 8 one morning and 3 the next day. And everybody can see what we're doing in real life. And what they're doing is this is just a huge security issue. This is a huge privacy issue, but it's taken the campuses by storm, and all the kids are getting it, and they're all taking pictures of all this stupid stuff that they're doing that they wouldn't normally take pictures of, because you normally only take pictures of all the wonderful things in your life and post those on Instagram and Facebook. Reddit, WhatsApp, and YouTube are super duper popular. And if your kids have all of these on their phone, no wonder they're using it 4, 5, or 6, 7 hours a day. These are fun apps to use. So don't introduce them too early. Know what they're using. Put some ground rules in place. Maybe don't hold off all the way until they move out. That's not the wisest thing to do, unless for maturity reasons you really just have to. But 17, maybe 17 and a half, you might want to make sure that they know how to do some of this stuff before they leave. All right, pornography. This is another big issue that we have to be very careful with. I've been talking about pornography and the dangers of it for 20 years, and it's still as dangerous as it was 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, that's all I was talking about. How do we protect our kids against pornography? Now it's like social media and screen time addiction. But there are so many pornography websites and apps that you can download and get on your phone. So we want to make sure that we have control and we know what our kids are looking at, and we have a filter on their computer or their phone because it's, pretty big deal. Most kids, when they first see pornography, stumble upon it on accident. They don't go out there looking for it on purpose. Once they find it, they save it, and then they share it with their friends. And they're 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and they find something on accident, and they go to school and say, hey, when you get home, Google American Girl doll in Google and see what happens. And they're like, oh, okay. And kid goes home and Googles American Girl, and up comes American Girl. Not the doll, but the real life American Girl in all of her glory. And the parents are like, where did you, what? Well, Johnny told me to do that at school. So pornography is typically shared in elementary and middle school when our kids first find something on accident because there wasn't a filter on. Then they save porn on their mobile devices. The Newport Beach Police Department says that like 8 out of 10 phones that they confiscate from a minor, from kids, whether it be at a traffic stop or in the course of an investigation, has some pornography on it. Whether it's photos they've saved on their camera roll or websites that they visited or some app that allows them to view online content, pornographic nature. And then, of course, we have the addiction. Pornography addiction is just like cocaine addiction. They both give you high levels of dopamine in your brain. Gambling, cocaine, and pornography. Huge amounts of dopamine. Do you guys know what a runner's high is? Anybody here ever gotten one of those? Obviously, I've never gotten a runner's high. But that is dopamine. You're running, your body feels so good. And the dopamine says, this feels good, you need to go do this again. It's the same drug we get when we eat food. Oh, this feels so good, I need to go do this again. When you have sex, oh, this feels so good, we need to go do this again. That's dopamine. So same thing with gambling, the same thing with pornography, the same thing with too much screen time or too much social media. All right, the third thing we need to be careful of are these apps on our kids' phones that allow them to either be bullied or bully others. And typically these are the kinds of apps that allow kids to be anonymous, like Kik or Ask.fm or Discord or Snapchat. Any app that allows our kid to be someone other than who they are opens the door for them to either be bullied or be a bully. And if your kids aren't being bullied by somebody, maybe they are the bully. I've got 3 kids who are followers. They're leaders and they're strong-willed. And then I have one who just wants to be accepted by everybody. And that one is a high likelihood of somebody who could easily be bullied. And I have a very strong personality child that could easily be a bully. So you need to put these protections and filters, things that we're going to talk about in a minute, on their phones and computers, not just to protect your kids, but to protect other kids from my kids. We want to make sure that we are keeping everybody safe. It takes a village, right? We want to protect all of the kids in the neighborhood. All right, sexting apps. These are apps that allow kids to share inappropriate images through text messaging. Tinder, obviously. Snapchat allows us to share pictures that delete automatically. There's even an app called iDelete. And these apps are just open doors for grooming. They're open doors for allowing people to chat and communicate with our kids, and that will start out innocently and then lead to inappropriate things. These are apps that we do not want to see on our kids' devices ever. Okay, here's the problem with sexting apps. It leads to in-person encounters. It's used by predators. Kids view them as harmless because it's just an app, right? It's not some guy down by the river in a white van with a sign on the side that says free candy. You know, it's not a dangerous thing. It's just an app on my phone. So they don't view it as dangerous, which leads them down the road to starting it. But about 50% of the kids in middle school, I have one in middle school, have some kind of a sexting app on their phone, whether it be Snapchat or even Tinder. You'd be shocked at how many junior high and high school kids have Tinder on their phone. If you don't know what Tinder is, it's an app that allows you to hook up with other people, not just a dating app, but a friends with benefits app, a no strings attached app, a hookup app, I'm in a foreign city for the night app. And what kids will do, because they've heard the word Tinder on Seinfeld or on Friends, a TV show, and they're curious about it, right? So they'll go on and they will download it just to check it out. They're just curious. They're not going to use it, but that's where the door opens. And even though they might innocently just be curious about what it is, you don't know what's on there, so it stays on there. Fast forward 3 to 6 months or whatever, and they're bored and they open it up and now somebody can contact them. So we want to make sure we keep our eyes on the apps that our kids are using. Last one, and that's screen time addiction. I've talked about it this whole time so far, but screen time addiction is the dopamine. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical that is automatically created in our brain that controls habits and learning. It controls a lot of our motivation. But too much dopamine leads to learning issues. It leads to motivation issues. It leads to bad habits and addiction. Dopamine is the bad guy. And we didn't know this when we were giving our kids devices 10 years ago. Maybe 6 or 5 years ago, the doctors kind of woke up and said, oh, I think we realize what's going on here. And now we're understanding that it is a real addiction. And when we detox our kids from technology, it is a real detox with real brain chemicals that really needs counselors and therapists and loving pastors and understanding, compassionate parents. And if you're going to take this stuff away from your kids, you need to do it in a very thoughtful way. Okay, so did I scare you? Hopefully. I scared you a little bit, scared you enough to wake up and go, oh man, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. I really didn't think my kid could be introduced to some of that stuff. So here's 4 rules to consider. The first one is know their passwords. You have to know your kids' passwords. Super, super important. I started out many years ago telling people you need to get a little password book. And you need to write down all your passwords and you need to write down all your kids' passwords. And I did that. And then the password apps came out. And at first I was a little bit leery. I don't want to put my apps in the cloud and put them on an app. But then our phone got fingerprints. And then our phone got a facial recognition. And nobody can get in my phone except me. And I kind of did some research. And I have grown to love password apps. The one that I like the most is called Keeper. Keeper lives on my phone. It has all my passwords in it. Has all my kids' passwords in it. It's encrypted, which means the data that is saved is completely scrambled and nobody can read it except me. It allows me to have all my kids' social media and email accounts and Apple IDs and my fingertips 24/7 because my phone's in my pocket all the time. So now that I have their passwords, I've gone from a safety level 2 to a safety level 4 or 5, just simply because I have their passwords. Now, if I needed to, I could log into my daughter's Yahoo account, her Instagram account, her Snapchat account, her Apple ID, her iCloud, her Find My Phone instantly, because I have the password with me right now in my pocket. And so I would highly encourage you to get your kids' passwords, figure out what they are, go home and say, I'm going to change the rules a little bit. I haven't had all of your passwords in the past, but now I'm going to, so cough them all up. I should have had them. I didn't. Now I'm going to. Use a book like the one on the right there in that picture, or use an app. And if you do use an app and you're looking for an app, I can tell you that Keeper is safe, Keeper is secure, and you won't have a problem with it. And I've used it for a long time and really like it. Okay, next rule, remove technology at nighttime. One of the worst things that we could do is let our kids go to bed with a cell phone. An unprotected cell phone would be even worse. But a cell phone, regardless, while they're supposed to be getting rest, is a pretty dangerous thing. We put our head on the pillow and want nothing more than to go to sleep as fast as possible. You remember when you were 10? I can't go to sleep, Mom. I don't know why. I just can't. Maybe it's because you had a Snickers bar after dinner. But regardless, you put that phone in their room, they're going to just use it. And once that blue light on the phone turns on and that melatonin kicks in, it's like the sunshine. And they're wide awake, and they don't know why. It's because you have an iPad and you're playing Clash of Clans at 11:30 at night. Take the technology out of the bedroom. Remember those 5 things that we're scared of? Pornography, screen time addiction, sexting. Guess where those things happen? They happen at night in the bedroom after you've gone to sleep and they still have their technology. That's where it happens. It doesn't happen in the car on the way to school. It doesn't happen at soccer practice. It doesn't happen around the dinner table. It doesn't happen on Saturday at the pool. It happens at night, late, when they're supposed to be sleeping. That's when it happens. So we take the technology away at night. We just went from a safety level 4 to a safety level 6. All we did is know their passwords and remove the technology at night, and we're already 3 times safer than we were when we started. This is a little basket that we have in our kitchen. This is a real basket in a real kitchen, and we have had it for 6 or 7 years. This is where our children's phones and iPads live, and the chargers are right behind it, which makes it look tidy, and Mama likes that. And my kids will stand next to this basket for long amounts of time because they know as soon as it goes in the basket, it's theoretically time for bed, and they march on upstairs without their phone, little separation anxiety. This is my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter's favorite place to stand in the house is right next to the basket about 11 o'clock at night. I just have to go into the kitchen and look at the basket, and there's my daughter every single night. I don't want to put it down, I don't want to put it down. She puts it down, she goes to bed, but it's not in her room. She's 18, I don't think her cell phone's been in her room ever. So it's not impossible. And because I set that rule before she got her first phone, it has not been an issue. She doesn't complain that the phone doesn't go in her room. It's just how it is, right? If you take it out of the room at 15 years old, you have World War III, and now you have an issue with the relationship, and now you have, you're not fair, and you hate me, and my daughter doesn't think it's a big deal because that's how it's always been. So I really love to get this message across to people with toddlers. Here's some rules you can put in place before they grow up while you're still smarter than they are. The one on the left is some toddler in bed with an iPad, and that just, makes me so sad. All right, get them out of the bedroom. Number 3, not only do we need to take them out of the bedroom, but we need to put them in a public space in our house. Okay, those bad things that we talked about earlier, like I said, they happen in the bedroom. They don't happen at the table, in the living room, on the computer with the screen facing out. This is an ideal location for computers. In March of 2020, my 4 children who go to public school transitioned from public school to homeschool, where we did 14 beautiful months of school at home. And when that happened, we completely gutted our living room. We took our couches and stuck them on the curb with a free sign. And then we went to IKEA, and we bought 4 matching desks in March of 2020, knowing the next Monday our kids were going to be home. and we were not going to let them do their homework in the bedroom. So we set those 4 computers up in the 4 corners of our living room, and we turned it into Burnett Academy, where our kids did Google Classroom for the next 14 months. They helped each other. They had one central printer. We discovered very quickly that their friends were doing Google Classroom from their bed, in their jammies, half asleep, or maybe with their cameras off. My kids had their cameras on, in front of their computer, in the living room where mama could look and go, all right, we're good. Well, that's the idea. You just jumped from a safety level 6 to a safety level 8 because your eyes can see what they're doing on the screen. So if they're doing homework in a bedroom, or they're doing homework in a treehouse, or they're doing homework in a room that you're not in and never go in, security's compromised. In our house, it's very, very safe because all of those screens are facing out. When they went back to school, 14 months after COVID started, we said, living room staying just like this until they move out. We don't need our living room that bad. So I walk in the door at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and all my kids are in the same room. This one's watching YouTube. This one's playing Roblox. This one's doing homework. This one's checking out college scholarships. And I get to interact with them. And I get to ask, how are you guys doing? And, hey, Dad, come here, I got a question. And it's right there. Instead of I come home and they're in all their bedrooms doing homework, and now I have to actively go look for them if I want to interact with them, which I probably don't because I just worked all day. Just let them be in the bedroom, I don't care. But in the living room, okay, we're back to who's influencing your kids, right? You want to be the influencer, or do you want social media to be the influencer? I do have a picture, not in this, but I should put it in this, of our Burnett Academy. People walk into open the living room door, and they walk in, and they're like, oh, you have a schoolhouse, and your kids aren't homeschooled. What's going on with that? And it works fabulous. All right, last one. 4 rules to consider. Put it in writing. You can make a little contract with your child that says, hey, I'm going to give you a cell phone. It's going to charge in the kitchen. I'm going to know the password. You're not going to put social media accounts on there without asking me first. You will never send me to voicemail. I will know what the phone password is. Da, 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 da. You put it in writing, you make them sign it. When you give your child their first cell phone, they will agree to anything. Anything. You can say, you will wash my car every Friday. Okay, just give me a cell phone. I promise you, they'll do it. You can slip things into that little contract without them knowing, and they'll sign it. They will do anything. So it's a really good time to say, I'll have your password. It'll charge in the kitchen. You can't send me to voicemail. You don't get to send pictures of body parts to strangers you don't know. You don't get to download apps without asking me first. Sign this, please, and I'll give you a cell phone. They sign it away. You post it on the fridge. You remind them once in a while of the rules. And half the drama. Safety, level 8, just went to a level 9. We're getting there. All right, there's a cell phone contract on my Facebook page. You can search on Facebook, Integrity Computer Concepts. It'll come up. I just told you don't go on social media too much, and now I'm telling you go on social media. But a cell phone contract, there's also a computer contract that you could do very similar rules to.
Yeah, I think the internet just went down.
Here's a funny one.
I'll just give it a sec. We'll come back.
Something just happened in the world, and we have no idea what it was.
I know what we can do. We can go to a movie.
Yes. What's playing?
I'm sorry?
Playing the film?
I don't know what's playing.
I found a Thai place.
Oh, good. Read a review.
There's no review, it's just a phone number.
How am I supposed to eat there if I don't know what other people think about it?
Come on!
Work together, work together. Do you have anything? No, I don't.
Please come back, Internet. I love you so much. Just come back, please, please.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, good.
We never do this anymore.
No. I'm just gonna leave it up.
Yeah,
just in case it does come back.
Just to be sure.
I need to let her know that I'd like this. I'd like Like.
Honey,
It's not swiping.
come on. Is the internet back on?
No.
Is the internet back on?
No.
Is it back on?
No.
Is it back?
All I'm asking for you is to be funny. Play the keyboard. Just play the keyboard right now.
Cats on keyboards. That is a typical day in my house when the internet goes out, or when you go to Hume Lake, or when the Wi-Fi is not working, because we just use it so much. It controls so much now. Our shopping lists, our Uber rides. Oh, it's all on the internet. All right, so there's 3 types of programs that you can put on these devices to help keep them safe. The first one is a monitoring program that tells you what they're doing. The second one is a filtering program that blocks all the garbage. And the third one is a time control program that shuts it off at 10 o'clock. When I started doing this, I had to put 3 programs on the computer to do these 3 things. I had to put a program to monitor what they were doing, and then I had to put Net Nanny on to do the filtering, and then I had to put MobiSip or some other program on, and we had all this management. It was a pain in the neck. And now there's programs that do all of it. All monitoring, filtering, and time control. So the first one I want to show you is Custodio. That's a program that you can download onto your kids' Chromebooks or their Apple laptops or their Windows computers to monitor, manage, filter, and time control their laptops. So it's in the handout. It's called Custodio with a Q, and it is for computers. We do not put Custodio on phones. We do not put Custodio on iPads. It's for computers. The one down at the bottom is called Screen Time. Screen Time is an Apple product. Apple phones and iPads are still the most popular, taking up about 80% of the cell phone market. And Screen Time is the program that Apple uses. Now, there is a very similar program for Android users that we'll talk about in just a minute, but for practical purposes, I'm going to demonstrate Screen Time because I have an iPhone and I can put it up on the screen. The one in the top right is called Life 360. Who uses Life 360? All right, we know the power of Life 360. It's wonderful. You guys know what Find My Phone is? Or Google has a location tracking phone for the Android. Well, Life 360 is a free program that works between Androids and iPhones and Blackberries and Windows phones, if those are still around, and it allows for location monitoring. So Find My Phone allows me to see where the phone is right now. Life 360 tells me where the phone was this morning at 9 o'clock, where it was yesterday at 3 o'clock, and where it was last Friday night at 10:30 p.m. So it's like a breadcrumb trail, and it's a free program. They have a paid version and a free version. We've been using the free version for years, and our family really loves Life 360. I'm going to show you how it works. Let's first talk about Custodio. So Custodio allows us to block pornography, so there's our filter. It allows us to view social networking activity, so there's our monitoring program. It allows us to control games and set device time limits. So it does all of these things. So the way it works is you have an app on your phone called Custodio, and the app on your phone controls your children's computers. Don't get confused that the app controls their phones. The app controls their computers. So my kids all have a computer, and they all have a mobile device. So I use Custodio to manage their computer, to manage their time control. 2 of them have Windows computers, 2 of them have Macs. It works beautifully on both. And then I use Screen Time to manage their mobile devices. 2 of them have iPads, 2 of them have iPhones. So Screen Time manages their mobile devices, Custodio manages their computers. Here's a picture of the Screen Time app that I'm going to show you in just a second. It allows me to say when their computer can be used and for how long it can be used. Life 360 is that program that does GPS tracking. I said it a second ago that it's free, and it is very powerful, and it's very accurate. When Life 360 first came out, everybody was scared. I don't want anybody to track me. What if somebody can hack into Life 360 and then they'll know where I am? And in the, 8 years I've been using it, I haven't read a single news story where somebody was tracked or monitored without their consent through Life 360, the app. Now, I do have news stories I could share with you of people who were tracked because somebody dropped a little tracker app thing from Apple in somebody's pocket at Disneyland, but not from an app that was put on their phone. It's a little bit harder to do that. So Screen Time We talked about custodios for the computers. Screen time is what we use for the phone. So my 4 kids have mobile devices. I use an iPhone. We use screen time. The one for the Android is in the handout. I know some of you might have Google phones, and so you can just kind of translate what I'm saying to Phenomo or Google Family Link. So Google Family Link is the screen time equivalent. It's called Google Family Link. It's not nearly as powerful as screen time, but it does work. But Phenomo is an app that you can buy for $19 that'll go on your Android phones. If you're an Android user and your child's an Android user, you can do that. If you're an Android user and your child's an Apple user, good luck. You can't. It doesn't work like that. You can't put screen time on an Android phone to control an iPhone or a device. So you're going to get your kids the same kind of device that you have. And that's what's going to make it easy. There's probably ways to do it. It's just not going to be easy. All right, so what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to put my cell phone up on the screen, and we're just going to demo a couple of things. So I have a cool little app that allows me to mirror what's on my phone right up on the screen. You guys at home should be able to see that. And here we go. So the first one I'm going to click on is Custodio. It's the one in the lower right-hand corner. It's green. And when I click on Custodio, I'm going to be able to see my 4 kids. There's 5 of them on there. I'm going to click on Zach. He's the one in the bottom. And when I click on Zach, I'm going to see that he's used his computer for 1 hour and 28 minutes today. If I swipe to the left, I can see what time he used it for. I can see how many minutes he spent and what he was doing. I can see that he didn't go to any websites that were blocked. I can see that he searched on YouTube homemade boat. I can see that he did some web searches for pulsar coil. That's the component on his motorcycle that broke the other day. And if I scroll down, I can look and see exactly what he did. Oh, there's a Google search. Can you charge a 12-volt battery with a 6-volt charger? Google's amazing. My 15-year-old has figured that out. Let's go see what else he's done. Let's go scroll up to the top, and I'm going to click Show me the last 7 days. And now I'm going to scroll back down. I'm going to see if I can't find some YouTube videos. Oh, here we go. So Tuesday, May 17th at 11:12 p.m. That's pretty late. Don't know what he was doing up. It says YouTube. I'm going to click on that little right there. It's going to show me the YouTube videos that he watched. Right there. Pilot fakes fainting to prank a passenger. Sounds like a funny video. But that's what you can do with Custodio. I have full monitoring capabilities of what my kids are doing on their computers. The other cool thing that Custodio allows me to do is put time controls on. I can say how many hours a day that computer works. And I can dial it up and I can dial it down. I can change it one day to another, make them different times on different days. I change these all the time. Generally, they're at 4 hours. That's plenty of time to do a couple things, watch a YouTube video, get your homework done, play a game. That's more than they need. But at 4 hours, it just turns the computer off. Just zap, turns it right off, which we love. We change it during COVID. We change it during the summer. We just dial it up and down. The other thing that Custodio allows me to do is specify when the computer is allowed to work. So you can see here, it doesn't work before 7 a.m. and it doesn't work after midnight. That's pretty late. I don't know how it got like that. Someone knows my phone password. All right, we're going to change it to 10 o'clock Sunday through Thursday and 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday. And after that time, whether he's used it for 1 hour or 4, it's just going to turn the computer off. The third thing that Custodio does is it allows me to put a filter on. I can customize the categories that Custodio blocks. I can say it blocks violence or it doesn't block violence. It blocks alcohol or it doesn't block alcohol. It blocks pornography or it doesn't block pornography. Now, most filters block too much stuff. Has anybody had a filter on a computer in the past at all and then it got taken off? Okay, probably. Why did it get taken off? Because you can't do anything. Because it's too restrictive. by default, filters are all too restrictive. That's their job. So when you first install Custodio, it blocks everything: violence, weapons, profanity, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, gambling. It blocks all that stuff. But my kid's not going to learn how to smoke cigarettes on the internet. Guaranteed. Hasn't happened, never will. Okay, he's not going to buy Budweiser over the internet. Hasn't happened, never will. So I don't need to block those. That's not what I'm concerned about. Now, if my kid went to alcohol rehab for 8 weeks in the wilderness of Utah, when he came back, I would have drugs and alcohol blocked on the internet. But I don't want him to hate the filter. And if I block all of this stuff, he's going to hate the filter. And as soon as he hates the filter, he's going to figure out how to turn the filter off, because he's 15 and he knows how to use Google and he knows how to use YouTube. And if you go to Google and go to YouTube and you Google, how do you disable Custodio, it's probably on there. So we don't want him to do that. I don't want him to hate the filter. If the filter doesn't pop up and say blocked, blocked, Saddleback Church, blocked, school website, blocked, Las Vegas destination, Blue Man Group, blocked, it's gambling, blocked, 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 blocked. So I dumb down the filter to the lowest possible level. And the only thing I'm really concerned about is pornography. So that, by all means, is blocked on all computers. But that's pretty much what it looks like on all 4 of my kids. And we don't have problems. If I had a violent child, I'd be blocking violence and weapons and maybe some other things. If I had a highly addictive child, or I had a cousin Vinny who was a drug dealer, I might be blocking some of this stuff. But for the most part, you can dumb it down so that it's kind of an invisible device, invisible filter. All right, that's Custodio. Let's jump over to Life 360. Life 360 is that purple one in the lower left-hand corner. I have these on the front page of my phone because I use them so much. Life 360 is where everybody in the family can see where everybody else is and where they were and how fast they were going. I have 2 drivers now, a 16 and an 18-year-old, and I'm going to go look and see how fast my 18-year-old drove her Jeep today on the 91 freeway. This is a lot of fun. So let's go down and find Jaden, my 18-year-old, and let's click on this little button that shows me her pathway. And I can kind of see where she drove today in and around Corona. And I can see what time she was at certain places. Oh, man, this is fantastic. And if I scroll down, I can see that 57 miles per hour was her top speed. There's a 59. There's a 65. Oh, my goodness, there's 76. I didn't even know her little Jeep would go 76. That's probably still getting passed on the freeway while she's driving. But this is a really cool app. I can see what time she left her friend's house. My wife can see when I'm heading home from work. I can see that my wife is at my daughter's recital right now. I can see different things, and we use it all the time. My kids can see where I am. I can see where my kids are. Now, this isn't for every family. There are some people who say, oh, no, nobody needs to know where I am at all. That's fine. You are the parent, and you have that choice. And you can go into Life 360 and say, they can't see me, but I can see them, and that's okay. Absolutely, that's okay. We don't have it set up that way in our house. It's pretty much an open book, and we look at it like this. We look at it like, I'm not looking over your shoulder, I'm watching your back. You watch my back, I watch your back. So this is a safety thing. We've got a device here, whether it's an Android phone or a BlackBerry or an iPhone, that has a GPS in it. There's more memory and technology in this phone right here than there was in the space shuttle. And we're going to give this to our 13-year-old kids and let them put it in their pocket, and we're not going to track where they are. That's the definition of insanity. There's a free app that tells you, the parent, where they are at all times. Why wouldn't you absolutely use that? It's easy, it's quick, it's free, it works across the board on all the phones, and you don't have to pay for it. So I would highly encourage you to go home and download and set up Life 360. And if you can't figure out how, then you just go next door and get an 8-year-old to help you, and they will help you, and you can get that program on your phone very, very quickly. We love it. We've used it for a lot of different things. I've shown up at Knott's Berry Farm, where my kids have passes. And they're there with my wife, and I get off a little early, and I just show up, and I'm like, oh, there they are, and I just walk in, and oh, Dad's here. No phone call made at all. I can tell my wife, hey, I'll just meet you at the movies. We don't talk about which movie or what time. We just look, oh, there, she's on her way. I better get going. And we just meet. It's pretty cool. We use it a lot. Let's look at the third one, and that's called screen time. So I'm going to go into the settings on my phone, and then I'm going to go into screen time, and I'm going to go down, and I've got my 4 kids listed there. My 4 kids, Blake, Jaden, Madison, and Zach. I'm going to go into Zach. He's always the most fun to pick on. And we see that Zach uses his phone for about 2 hours a day. If I click See All Activity, I can scroll down and see that he used the social media app Truth Social. He used Pinterest, Life 360. He was on YouTube for about 1 hour and 23 minutes. That was just today. I can go to yesterday, and I can see when he used the phone. I can see that he's using it during school hours, and that's not good. So there's my monitoring right there. I can see what he's doing, at what time of day, and for how long. Then I can go down and I can set app limits. So I can set limits up on his phone that says he's only allowed to use YouTube for 1 hour, Instagram for 1 hour, messages for 2 hours, after which time they just stop working. On his phone, it just doesn't work anymore. Now, if you add all those up, you go 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, you're giving your kid 6 hours a day. No, he's not going to go use the limit on every single app I've put a limit on. This just keeps him from being addicted to Instagram or addicted to Clash of Clans or addicted to YouTube. When grades go down, limits go down. When grades are A's and B's, limits go up. When respect to mom goes down, limits go down to a 0. When my son comes home with a D+ in PE and he's smart-mouthing mom, I just change all of these to 1-minute limit. And he knows instantly what the problem is. I don't have to say anything. He just goes, oh, 1 minute. Oh, Dad, check my grades. And we fix them, and then he gets them back again. We talk about grades and respect a lot in our house. When grades and respect are good, you get almost anything you want. And when grades and respect slip, the hammer comes down, and it starts with your use of technology. We've found them to be hand in hand. And the disrespect and the smart mouths and the grades always come with too much technology use. And when we take the technology away, and we go camping for a week, and we go to Hume Lake, and we restrict them, our kids change into different humans. They become reasonable and loving, and I like them again. And so sometimes we just have to go through these cycles, and they learn, and then they turn into monsters again. Okay, so we can go into screen time to manage their phones, and we can go into Custodio to manage their computers. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and finish up with a couple more slides. So I'm going to get back to my slideshow up on the screen here. And I'm going to fast forward through these iPhone screen time because I already just spoke about screen time. Screen time has to be used with the iPhone. I won't go into it too much. One of the things that's pretty important when you're setting up screen time is that the kids' birthdays must be accurate. You can't say that your kid's 19 or 20. If you lied about their age when you set up their Apple ID, you got to fix it because you can't manage a 19-year-old's phone. You can only manage an 8-year-old's phone or iPad. So you got to fix the birthdays. That's the biggest thing I see with screen time. All right. I put these up there because sometimes if the demonstration doesn't work, I still want to talk about it. So I have some slides, but we just screamed through those screen time slides. So here's the one that I was talking about for the Android phone, and this one is Phenomo. So Phenomo is $19. It does all the things we just talked about with screen time. It does internet filtering. It does time allowance. It does time limits. And you just have to buy it one time. It's not a subscription, and it works really, really well. Family Link is the one that's made by Google. And if you have an Android or you have a Chromebook, then you have to check out the Family Link app. Now, Google hasn't done a super great job, not anywhere close to what Apple has done in the way of parental control. Apple absolutely leads the bar with what you can do and what you can control on your kids' devices. But Google is right behind them, and there's lots of things you can do with time control and internet protections on the Chromebook through the Google Family link. All right, now, you might be wondering, how do I monitor my kids' text messages? So this is how you do it. This is a trick. It's called mirroring. You take an old device, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, and you set it up with their Apple ID or their Google account. And those two devices mirror each other. So here's the example. I have an iPad mini. That iPad mini is signed in with my daughter's Apple ID. It has iCloud on it. It has iMessage on it. It has her photos on it. It has her contacts on her calendar and her email. It's mirrored with her phone. But she doesn't know the iPad mini even exists. Get it? It lives in my wife's closet. And anytime we want to go look at it, we can go look at it. It has my daughter's text messages on it. It has my daughter's photos on it. And my job as a dad and my wife's job is to keep our kids safe. So when we decided she's 14 and she's talking to boys and we want to see what's going on, we could just go into the kitchen and pick up the phone when she goes to bed because we know the password, right? Piece of cake. Or she could be out and about now that she's driving and we have access to her text messages. So if you are in a position where you need to monitor your kids' text messages, and I wouldn't say that every parent needs to do that, you know, some kids are very compliant, some are not. Some parents are very overprotective, some are not. But if you need to manage or monitor your kids' text messages, this is the way to do it. You get an old iPad or an old iPhone or an old Android, and you just link it with theirs, and then you hide it. And you have two devices that are mirrored. It's very easy to monitor text messages this way. And we've been doing it for 5 years, and it works great. All right, last section. Here's 3 hardware devices that you guys can use. The first one is called Circle. It's this guy right here. This is a fantastic device that helps you manage the technology in your home, but it's only for little kids, okay? So this device plugs into your router. You all have a router, a wireless router at your house, and this plugs into your wireless router. This monitors and manages all the traffic on your home network, and you get an app on your phone that looks like this. And so you can see who is doing what. You can block Netflix on Johnny's Chromebook. You can turn off the Xbox at 3 o'clock. Anything that goes over the internet can be managed by this. Well, the reason why I said this only works with young kids is because teenagers learn that if you just walk over to the Circle and unplug it from the wall, it stops working. 7-year-olds don't know that. 14-year-olds do. This is great for parents with young children. The other reason it doesn't work with teenagers is because if the teenagers get blocked on the home Wi-Fi, what do? They just go to the cellular service. They just turn off the Wi-Fi. Now I'm on Verizon. Now I'm on AT&T. Now I'm on T-Mobile. And this doesn't work. It doesn't block them when they're on the cellular service. It only blocks them when they're on the Wi-Fi. So, great device if you have a house full of toddlers or young elementary kids and iPads and old mom's old iPhone that little Billy's running around with. This is a great way to help keep them safe. It's $100, worth every penny, but after 10 years old, it's out the window. And they'll just figure it out. The next one is the Kindle Paperwhite. So this is the only technology device that we allow in our children's bedrooms. This Kindle Paperwhite doesn't play games. It doesn't chat. It doesn't surf the web. It doesn't do social media. It just reads books. So my daughter downloads books from Amazon. I almost have an unlimited amount of books. I really don't care. I'll buy you as many books as you want to read. And when she's done with them, they're still on here. When my daughter was done with her Amazon Kindle Paperwhite, she passed it down to her brother. Her brother was 2 years younger than her, and she had like 60 books on here. He downloaded a few more, passed it down to the next kid. So this has gotten like 9 years worth of use at our house, and it was $129. It doesn't play games, it doesn't do videos, it doesn't do social media, but it is technology, and it is a book reader, and they felt a little empowered to have this in their bedroom and be able to read technology just like their friends have their iPads and they have their Paperwhites. Not the Amazon Fire, not the Kindle Fire. That's the color version that allows you to go on the internet and play games and chit-chat and download apps. This one doesn't allow you to do any of that. It's just books. We love this device. Okay, last slide maybe, 2 more slides. This is the creme de la creme piece of information that you need to know. How do you manage the time that our kids spend playing video games? This is how, right here. You ready? Everybody ready? That's how. You get them one of these. Believe it or not, I actually have a wood-grained Atari 2600, and I have a game called Pole Position. And when I hooked up the pole position game in my garage about 4 years ago, and I said, boys, come on in here. I'm going to show you how to play some video games. We put it up on the screen. The car in pole position stays in the middle of the screen. It doesn't ever move. The road moves sideways. The car doesn't move. They're like, Dad, this is really lame. How do you connect it with your friends? I said, you just, they're like, come on, do you just play one car by yourself? I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. You guys can play. This is great. They're like, no, this is the stupidest thing on the planet. Can I please go outside and play? I'm like, yeah, see ya. Out, go for it. You're out, go. And they don't want to play video games anymore. I do have it. We have hooked it up from time to time. Super fun. But the real answer to how you control video games is with this device, this very, very low-tech device called Bob. And what Bob does is Bob controls the power to the Xbox. So the Xbox plugs into the back of Bob. Bob has a key. The lock goes over the plug, so they can't unplug the Xbox or the PlayStation or the Wii from Bob. To get Bob to work, the kids have to type in their code, 1224. Bob turns on for an hour, or whatever you say, and at the end of the hour, Bob goes beep, 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 and they know it's going to turn off any minute, and it kills the power and the game turns off. It simply controls the power to the game console. Well, you could theoretically use Bob for anything then. You could plug a TV into it. If you had a child who came home from school before you came home from work and you wanted to give them an hour of TV between the hours of 2 and 6, you could tell Bob, between 2 and 6, Monday through Friday, 1 hour of TV. They walk up, they pop in the code, the TV turns on for 1 hour. They can't unplug it from Bob and plug it into power because it's locked. This is pretty low tech. There's only one place to buy Bob, and that's on Amazon. It's $80. We didn't get an Xbox in our house until I discovered Bob. So we got the Xbox, we got Bob, I gave my kids a code. They all have a different code. They're all allowed to play the game for 1 hour on Saturday and 1 hour on Sunday. Sometimes they barter. You give me your hour this week, I'll give you my hour next week. I don't care. Sometimes they'll be in the end of a game. Have you guys heard of this game, Fortnite? Okay, so you're playing Fortnite, and you're down to the very end of Fortnite, and there's only 3 people left in the game, and Bob goes, beep, beep. It's going to shut off any second. And I hear my kid from the garage, Dad, hurry, come in here. And I come in, and he's like, Dad, Bob's going to turn off, and I'm at the very end, and I'm going to win. And I walk over, and I can push in my code and instantly give Bob some extra time, and I can be the hero. Or it's a rainy day, and I can go into the garage and put in Dad's code, because Dad has 24 hours of time per day, and I can be the hero. And my kids aren't a big fan of Bob, but they're not addicted to video games either. Some of my kids' friends would rather play video games than go to hockey practice, because video games are more fun than hockey practice, and because there's no controls and they can do it as much as they want. My kid has an hour on the weekends. He's not addicted. He has it. He's not left out, and he's enjoying it, and sometimes we play together, but he doesn't have anywhere close to a video game addiction because it's limited, and Bob is our friend. So, here's my final tips. It's on the paper. It's on the handout if those of you guys who are watching at home have access to click on the link in the handout. Don't be afraid to change some of your rules for technology. We talked about the bedtime rule. We talked about technology in the bedroom. We talked about knowing your child's passwords. Don't be afraid to go home and make some adjustments. Take technology away at night. That's a biggie. get your children's passwords. Consider using some software to manage like Screen Time or Life 360 or Custodio or Family Link, Google Family Link. Or consider using some hardware like the Kindle Paperwhite or the Screen Time or Bob or the Disney Circle. Those are great devices. You got hardware options, you got software options, and you got some rules that you can put in place. And if you got young kids and you put those rules in place soon, the sooner the better. Sooner the better. So it is 7:24. We got a couple minutes before the 7:30 bell strikes. And there's not too many of you here, but if you guys have some questions you want to throw out there, I'd be happy to answer them. And who wants to start? Yeah. Ooh, we got a microphone. Fancy, fancy.
I have an iPhone and I use the app that monitors the kids' screen time app.
Yeah.
But I use it on, like, I go to their phone and I set the screen time. I don't know how do you make it come onto your phone?
That's a great, great question. So on your phone, you have a feature that hasn't been out that long, maybe a couple of years, called family sharing. And family sharing allows you to link your Apple ID with their Apple ID. Now, if they're using your Apple ID, it ain't gonna work. The days of having our kids use our Apple ID are over. We can't do that anymore. We have an Apple ID, they have an Apple ID. We tie the two Apple IDs together with family sharing, and once that's done, one Apple ID is listed as the parent, one Apple ID is listed as the child, and now the parent's phone can control the child's phone using screen time. And if you want to show me your phone when we're done, I'll point to where it is, and I can help you get that set up. No problem. Great question. Yeah. Now, if you want to just say it, I'll repeat the question for our people at home.
Do you have any device that's like very low, like can do like phone calls and pretty much that's it that you would recommend for like younger?
Yeah. So the question was, is there a device where I can give to a young child just to make phone calls? One of them is the watch. Who knows what it is?
Brought it for my grandson.
Do you remember what it's called?
No, but he hated
It's
it.
called the Gizmo. So the Gizmo watch allows you to have an app on your phone, Mom, to say he's allowed to call these 5 people, and these 5 people are allowed to call him. And the Gizmo watch works fabulous for young children. But as soon as they're old enough to care what their friends think, the Gizmo watch is out the window. So it works great for a 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe a 9-year-old, maybe a 10-year-old, and then you're probably done with the Gizmo watch. So that's a really great little communication watch. I know some 11 or 12-year-olds that have the Gizmo. They just don't wear it on their wrist. They keep it in their backpack so they can make a phone call with that watch, but we don't want my friends to see that they've got an iPhone 13 and I got a Gizmo watch. Yeah, good question. Anybody else? I'm sure there's people at home online that are watching that might have some questions. And if you want to email me at scott@iccguru.com, I'll be happy to get back with you and answer your questions. And I can come over and help you guys at your house if you want. That's what I do for a living. I get to come and share with parents and speak at churches and share my experience with helping keep kids safe. But then tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I'll be in someone's home helping set this stuff up and make things work right. And I've been doing that for a long time. So on the handout should be my name, my phone number, maybe my email address or my website. You can find me on Facebook. And I'm not going to go anywhere until everybody's gone. So if you have a question that you want to ask that maybe you didn't want to ask in front of everybody, or maybe it's a little more private, come on up here. I'll be happy to answer it. I'd be happy to take a look at your phone and show you a little bit about family sharing. But I want to thank you, Jen, for letting me come share again. Like I said, I was here 3 years ago, and things are the same, but things are different, and our kids are older. So thank you guys very, very much for coming. I hope that I've given you something to take home. And for those of you who have young kids, I hope you feel empowered to go keep your kids safe. For those of you with 16-year-olds, and you're here because you think the world is coming to an end, it is not, okay? Because God loves our kids even more than we do. And where we fail as parents, because we can only do so much, God will absolutely step in if we ask him to, because he wants good things for his children. So don't forget to include in your prayers that we can't do this on our own, and we need to ask for help keeping our kids safe. So if there's no more questions, let me just wrap us up in prayer, and then I'm not leaving until everybody checks out. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the children that are represented by the parents in this room and online. We ask, Lord, that you keep an eye on our kids. We ask that you just put technology angels around their computers, around their mobile devices, because there's no way we can protect them against all of this stuff. We can put filters on, and we can put monitoring programs on, and we can spend hours and hours trying to figure out how to keep them safe, Lord, and they'll still find a way to get around it. And so we beg of you to assist us. Give us the motivation, give us the energy, give us the wisdom that we need to keep your children safe, the children that you've given to us for a short time to be custodians over. We know that you love our kids. We know that you loved our kids before we loved our kids. And we just ask for your help right now in keeping them as safe as possible. We love you, we praise you, and we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, thank you guys for coming, and let me know if you have any questions.